Everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by SoundCloud Studios, brought to you by our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Me and Moses the Missing, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. Also brought to you by Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of King David, 30 Exquisite Paintings, Amazon.com, keyword Sweet Psalmist Serena Wagner, and the Sensei Swing Eric Dunn with all of me, EricDunnMusic.com, new music coming soon. We're here with a terrific gentleman who's an Iranian Jewish writer born in Hamburg, Germany, and raised in LA by way of Tehran. He's got a great story on that. He self-taught himself the English language by radio and TV, began writing at UCLA, later worked in newsrooms, restaurants, and warehouses. He has also been a private investigator, rug merchant, delivery driver, PR executive, news editor, line cook, a waiter, and more. He's got a great story. Entered law school in his 30s, set up a solo practice in LA, launched a not-for-profit literary quarry called the Thieving Magpie. We'll talk more about that. He has a new book exploring the many tensions between assimilation and identity in a child's desperation to pass as one of the main age-old conflict between Bugs Bunny and everyone who's out to kill the rabbit. The book is called American Playground. Live, ladies and gentlemen, plus studios in beautiful downtown Los Angeles. The amazing Iranian Jewish writer born in Hamburg, Germany. The book is called American Playground. Ladies and gentlemen, multi-talent, Michael Shokrian. Michael, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning. That was a great intro. Thank you very much.
Well, of course, with all these things you've done, of course, it's something that's really interesting. But killing the rabbits, I guess that's a different story. Talk more about that. So.
Yes.
So you're an Iranian Jewish writer born in Hamburg, Germany, raised in LA by way of Tehran. You self-taught in the English language by radio and TV. Began writing at UCLA, later worked in newsrooms, restaurants, warehouses, and more. You've been in a number of professions. You entered law school in your 30s. You set up a solo practice. You've got a quarterly called The Thieving Magpie, and you have a new book out which explores the many tensions between the assimilation and identity, a child's desperation to fit in culture. It's called American Playground. Before getting on, Michael, tell us how you first got started.
Well, when I first got started as a writer, that
Way
was
back machine. Way back,
yeah,
sure.
the
Way
Wayback
back.
Machine.
Or way back. Or if you're in or if you lived in England, it's into TARDIS, good doctor.
I prefer the Wayback Machine. I'm a definite fan of Mr. Peabody.
There you go. I grew up with that. I love cartoons. Saturday
That's
morning,
right.
breakfast cereal, all kinds. That was the Americana right there.
Exactly. And a lot of that is actually in the book. But so let me tell you how I got started. When I was 17, I was graduating high school. I had been accepted to UCLA as a math major. Um, but I was finding myself wandering away from the challenges of math and wanted to, explore something else. A family friend suggested I go into journalism, which sounded interesting to me. And he said, the first bit of advice I can give you is to keep a journal, because that's what journalists do. And so I went out the next day and I bought my first, university style notebook, empty notebook with a bunch of empty pages in it. And
Mm-hmm.
I started writing in it, the day, the date, the time and I started, writing everything that I was thinking, feeling, wondering, hoping, just all of it. And by the end of that summer and before the fall of my first year at UCLA, I had switched to becoming an English major, and I was really into writing. And it's never been different since then. I've been writing since that time.
Mm-hmm. And you also worked in other professions too, like you're a private investigator. You also rug merchant, delivery driver, PR
Yes.
executive, and line cook and waiter. Was this all things you're looking to explore into something else? Was it something on the side to keep you busy
No.
or anything like that?
No, no. I mean, I think that one of the quandaries, existential type quandaries that any writer has is how do you support yourself and still pursue your passion and pursue your art? It's not easy, as any writer will tell you. And so you just end up doing a whole bunch of side jobs, basically side gigs, to support your writing habit. So right out of the gate, I started working at, one of these stores in Westwood Boulevard or on Broxton Avenue in Westwood near UCLA. I always had jobs. I always had to support myself. By the way, my dad was not pleased with the fact that I had chosen writing as a career path. And so we had a lot of conflict there. And so I had made this decision that um, that's okay, that if he's not happy with it, I understand, and I'm going to support myself and pay for my own tuition and just take care of it and be responsible for the choices that I made. And so that uh, just that decision alone forces you to take jobs that, wherever you can. And I was lucky enough to always be working. And I managed to pay my tuition and to pay my bills and to pay my rent when I moved out, and pursue and continue to learn my craft, which is what I did when I was an undergrad. I just worked on writing. I was deeply and heavily committed to it. I still am. Um, and so I didn't mind. I mean, I liked all the jobs I had. I met a lot of great people. And I think that it, everything that I did, all the jobs that I had, all the people that I worked with in those jobs, educated me and informed everything that I wrote. So it was a very mutually beneficial situation where you get side gigs, you get life experience from those side gigs, and then you write.
Mhm.
And it's hard not to have the voices or the feelings or the characters of other people that you work with every day seep into your writing and to your writing process and the things that you write about.
Mhm. Of all the jobs that you had, like with PR exec, private investigator, rug merchant, and more, which one do you consider was your most favorite, and which did you consider was your least favorite?
Oh, that's a really good question, actually. I think that obviously the more exciting romantic one was the private investigator job. It was for a pretty famous investigator who did criminal defense work in San Francisco when I was living up there. Um, and he hired me. I had no experience. We were friends. We had met in Mexico years before. And so he knew that I was out of work in this one particular part of my life where a restaurant that I was working at shut down.
Mm.
So he hired me as his assistant, basically. And so I mean, they were all murder cases. They were all, gang related cases. They were very, very fascinating. And so I had to go, interview witnesses and interview, take down everything they wrote. Also, really informs your writing because you're sitting there writing down word for word um, these fascinating stories with I mean they were obviously tragic for the people that were involved, but the witnesses who survived these incidents had a lot to say and were very descriptive, and that was pretty exciting to me. That was a very exciting time, as somebody who was just working, trying to pay his rent, but also getting this very fascinating look into other people's lives and other people's even vernacular, for that matter.
Mhm. And
So,
what was the most unusual case you had been involved in?
um, well, they were all murder cases. There was one murder case that involved. I don't want to say they weren't gangs. They were. It was a hippie situation where, because this was up in San Francisco, there were a lot of weird characters. So basically from the Ken Kesey days, these were like holdovers who were living their 60s LSD style lifestyle, but it
Oh
was
yeah.
the 90s. So you know they were aging hippies and they were not all there necessarily, and somebody stabbed somebody and somebody saw something. There was a VW van, there was a big blunderbuss, school bus turned into a commune type of a thing. And so finding the real witnesses and getting them to talk was a real challenge, and it was fun. I mean, it was frustrating at some points. People would change their stories, at the last minute, and people would then they would give you a whole entire scenario and then say, "By the way, I'm a functioning alcoholic."
Or
So
or do it just to protect themselves, don't get in trouble or whatever. That's no.
yeah, yeah. So that was an interesting case though, just because of all the characters involved.
And of course, that influenced your writing as well too. Who are
Of
some of your
course.
favorite authors and writers and books growing up?
Well, I would say that I was very lucky that I was at UCLA at the time that I was there. This was in the mid 80s, and short fiction, American short fiction, was really booming in those days. And I had some very good instructors, and who introduced me to Sherwood Anderson, who wrote Winesburg, Ohio. And I think that to me still is my Bible that I go to regularly. He's such a wonderful writer. He just really captures the spirit of people through just the most minor of movements, hand gestures. He's a master. He really is. So Sherwood Anderson, I would say, is the biggest influence I've had. But I also got introduced to Ernest Hemingway, who I obviously heard about a million different ways. But to actually sit down and read one of his books that I hadn't heard of or read before was fantastic to me. It was just very eye-opening. And in fact, a lot of the structure that I have in American Playground, I think I was inspired by this book called In Our Time by Ernest Hemingway, which is a collection of short stories, but they're sort of related. And it's just a fantastic book. So I would say I was really deeply into Sherwood Anderson and Ernest Hemingway. And then as one of my jobs was working at the University Research Library at UCLA, I discovered Charles Bukowski, and really everything changed for me then. I mean, I just realized how easy it is to be an honest writer and to be a raw writer, um, and still be really good and really entertaining. And I learned a lot from Charles Bukowski. And through Charles Bukowski, I discovered John Fante, who's an LA writer also. And I think those are my pillars. Those are the people that really educated me on literature, on writing, on the art of being honest and being raw.
Mhm.
And yeah,
And of course, you also have some honest material as well too with your book American Playground. Get that with Michael Shokrian in just 1 minute. But first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, time to give an official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those who love you to first go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has got great reviews. An Evil Eleven enjoys by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassie, Forrest Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today for It Goes Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Coming soon, Missing 2 by Mia Molson-Zia, double the suspense, double the fun. Check it out on Amazon. Also brought to you by The Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of King David, including 30 exquisite paintings and King David Psalms. The Sweet Psalmist gives a new perspective of David through the Psalms he wrote and his time as a shepherd growing up and complicated yet turbulent relationship with King Saul. His story of love, betrayal, repentance, hope, and more. Check out The Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner on Amazon. Keyword Sweet Psalmist Serena Wagner. Also brought to you by Sensei Swing, Eric Diamond's latest release, All of Me, featuring the title track, I've Gotten a Heartache, Bring Me Sunshine and More. Eric's a multi-award winning artist, inducted numerous Hall of Fames. Album Entertainer of the Year, new release coming soon. Check out ericdimemusic.com for the latest and follow on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and all platforms worldwide. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show, the MikeWagnerShow.com, 40 podcast platforms, 100 countries. Take us with you on any mobile device. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, iHeart, Spreaker, Spotify, Instagram, and all socials. And For great gift ideas like t-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies, Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, Amazon.com/me and Molson. Great books, merchandise, and more. And support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. We're here with the amazing writer born in Hamburg, Germany, raised in LA by way of Tehran, Michael Shokrian here on the Mike Wagner Show with American Playground. And before we talk about the American Playground, tell us about your journey going from Germany to LA by way of Tehran.
Okay. Well, my parents lived in Hamburg for a while in the early 60s. Um, I was conceived and born in Hamburg, but my parents are both from Iran. They're Iranian Jews. And eventually, I think by the time I was maybe one or two, they moved back to Tehran, where we lived and where I went to school for a couple of years. And by the time I was in the middle of second grade, they had made the decision to move to America. This was long before the Iranian Revolution. This was in 1971. So we packed it up and came to LA. And, it was very hard for me. This is kind of the subject of how the book starts, this American Playground. I was 4 days into being in America before school started, the second semester of second grade.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was a real challenge to communicate with these kids, my classmates, to kind of figure out what's going on in school. I didn't speak any English. So, and they didn't have ESL in those days or anything like that. This was an LA public school. It was a great school, by the way, which I loved. That was how we did it. And really, your best friend when you don't have an ESL teacher or whatever these programs now they have to teach you English, your best friend is radio and television. So I had the radio on all the time. I had the TV on all the time, and I learned English watching I Dream of Jeannie or Gilligan's Island, or listening to 93 KHJ, Reeled on Steel, listening to Vin Scully do Dodger Radio every night.
Oh, my favorite. One of the best in the business. Love baseball. Although I'm a Cub fan, I love the Dodgers. Yes.
He was a master. He was a master. And so when you listen to that every night as you go to sleep, when you're listening to Vin Scully tell you stories of old baseball lore, when you wake up in the morning and watch Bugs Bunny and learn his vernacular of how Americans talk or how they talk in the 40s.
And that's how you kill the wabbit, or try to kill that wabbit.
Exactly. So that's how I learned English, and that's how I learned about English American culture. I learned about American culture through Bugs Bunny or Vin Scully, or these were the people who were educating me, because you don't get on the job training when you're second semester or second grade. You're just running and trying to figure things out. So it was a challenge. Looking back on it, it was fantastic. It was really such a marvelous time. But at the time that I was going through it, it was very traumatic. Not knowing, what the words are, not knowing what words mean, not knowing, so much.
I suppose you came up to the kid and say, "What's up, Doc?"
You could say that, and sometimes you get smacked for it.
Yes, get away, you silly wabbit.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of times you think you learn something clever from TV or radio, and you try to use it the next day at school, and you don't understand the context or anything else, and so it has the wrong effect. That happened a lot. I was in trouble most of the time at that school, but again, all with fond memories now.
Mm-hmm. And of course, what are some other favorite TV shows you enjoy watching as a kid? You watched Gilligan's Island, Bugs Bunny, and quite some others. What are some other TV shows you watched back then?
Well, let me just say this. When we were living in Iran, there were certain TV shows that were American TV shows that were on TV in Iran as well. So I already knew when I got here, I already recognized Batman, and I recognized Bewitched, and I recognized Genie, I Dream of Genie, and I recognized Gilligan's Island, because those are all shows we had in Iran. And actually, it's one of those things where you're going to cling to what's most familiar to you when you're in the foreign territory. So when I came here, um, there was reruns of all those shows every day after school. Every day I'd be watching reruns of Gilligan's Island and I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched, and Batman, of course, was the best. And so those were the shows that really stuck with me in my early years. Then I discovered Brady Bunch and Partridge Family and those shows. But I was definitely a TV head. I watched a lot of TV, and loved every minute of it, and still do. I mean, I don't watch new TV. I have a lot of DVDs of old TV shows.
Oh yeah,
Um,
we got a bunch of those, and one day they can be sold on Amazon or eBay or something like that. So
maybe. Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah, and then how about newspapers? Did you get a chance to read those or read any
Yes.
magazines or?
Yes. I subscribed. Well, I was in the Cub Scouts,
Scouts
and
and
as a member of the Cub Scouts, we got a subscription to Boys Life magazine, which I read all the time. Also, in second or third grade, they used to have these book clubs that you could sign up for, Scholastic Book Club or
I
something like that.
remember, yes, like
Yeah,
Clifford the Big Red Dog and all the others. I remember that.
yeah. So I used to order books from those places pretty regularly. But I did read. Eventually, I read the LA Times mostly for the sports section because I followed the Dodgers because of Vin Scully. Um, Magazine wise, it was Boys Life, mostly. I'm talking about when I was 8 or 9. So, I mean, in those days, of course, when I became a teenager, I read the LA Times, religiously on a daily basis. And I read different magazines and books and things like that. So I was definitely a reader, just by virtue of the fact that I spent a lot of time alone, you
Mhm,
know. And that so I became my own companion, I guess.
mhm. And do you
And when
still follow
you're
baseball to this day? Even you start growing up, following the Dodgers and everything. And how about some
absolutely,
other sports like the Lakers or say like let's see, the Angels, the Rams back in the day before they moved,
yeah,
and then you got LA Kings, and of course you had soccer back then too. You had what was it,
yeah,
LA Aztecs or something
the
like that.
Aztecs, yeah, they did have the Aztecs here. Um, I played soccer. I played on AYSO, my brother and I. But I think as a fan, from a fan perspective, I was a diehard Dodger fan, and I really in the '70s it was easy to be a Dodger fan because they were such a great and lovable team. Before even Tommy Lasorda took over, they had Walter Alston, who was a throwback. And so they really got to me, especially I guess in 1974, I was 10 years old, and they were in the World Series and they were considered an underdog in the World Series, and so it was so fascinating for me to just experience all of that. And I remember when they were in the playoffs. Uh, just before that, I think I would guess I was in third grader, but everybody shut down in our classroom. They had brought in a TV from outside and set it up, and we all watched the Dodgers play the Pirates. And I didn't even know what it all was because I'd only heard them on the radio. I'd never really seen like a baseball game on
Uh-huh.
TV before. So the whole class was enthralled, and the interesting thing is that normally on the playground there's a hierarchy and there's factions and there's groups and all that kind of stuff. But when the TV came into the classroom and they turned on the Dodgers playing in the playoffs, everybody was watching. We were all like
Eh,
together in
So
that
it's
little
like
brief
everybody
moment.
grouped together. Of course, you have your divisions, your clerks, and everything. It's like I'm not gonna
Yeah,
play with you in a playground, but then everybody comes together. It seems
yeah,
that sports and music always comes together, and
that's
sports is
right.
always a thing. And if correct me if I'm wrong, and I've heard this too, that the best connector to relating to people is sports friendship. Even a janitor and a CEO of a company can be friends by talking sports. Is that right?
Absolutely. It's a love language. It's a love language for people from all different walks of life. And so, I have one best friend that I've had for over 30 years. And the way that we became friends is we both worked in the same warehouse, and he was a Red Sox fan. And I happened to be a Red Sox fan at the time because my favorite player, former Dodger, was on the Red Sox. So I was following the Red Sox for my personal reasons. He was
Oh,
following the
really?
Red Sox.
Who was that player? Do you remember?
Bill Buckner. Bill Buckner.
Bill Buckner. You know something? I think we're coming together. He played for the Cubs, and that's my favorite.
Yes, he
Bill
did.
Buckner. Yeah.
Yes, he did. He got
Oh
traded
my
to the
God.
Cubs.
Yes.
He was
Bill
traded to the
Buckner.
Cubs.
Thank you, Billy, for gathering us together. Yes.
That's
Bill
right.
Buckner. Oh my God.
He's my favorite. He's just to me, he was everything baseball, and he had the big mustache, and I'm a lefty, and he's a lefty, and um, after he got traded, I remember that there was a funky way that you can manipulate your TV in LA to get WGN, and so I would come home after school, and it was always the eighth inning of a Cubs game on WGN, and I'd always like Mickey up the TV and figure out how to find WGN. And it was always the eighth inning. I guess at that time, the games used to start at 12 or 1. So by
Right. Right.
3:30,
They had no lights at Wrigley Field at the time,
no
which
lights at Wrigley. All day
yeah,
games.
right. Yeah, that was it. And I remember having those days where it's like the Cubs could have won the World Series in '84, but the home field advantage got taken away because
Yeah.
they didn't have lights. And then it was a big deal when they had the Phillies. Now it's like everybody looks forward to playing baseball at night. Real good feeling. It's just so amazing. But I was just going to ask as well too about WGN. How'd you manage? Was it like you tune it, you just get at night or something, or?
It was in the afternoons, and by that time there was like this box, this like it was like a cable box, I guess, and it had a bunch of numbers on it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to like 26. I guess that represented the channels. And
Okay.
somehow, I don't know how, I figured out that if you hit channel 4 with channel 16 at the same time, I don't know how, but WGN showed up. And there was Buckner, in his Cubs uniform and his stripes, the home uniform.
Oh
And
yes.
I knew his stance, like etched in my mind. So I always know when Bill Buckner's up. And maybe it's just my memory, but it seemed like it was always the bottom of the eighth. He was always on deck or at bat, and the game was always on the line. So it was so fun for me to, because I was so sad when he got traded, and I was like, how am I going to be able to follow him? Which is how I learned how to read the box scores. Because you can follow anybody through the box scores. You don't have to have TV. You can get all the information from those box scores. They're like hieroglyphics.
And especially a newspaper as well, too. Ron Say came from that era and came to the Cubs. It's like that's
Yes, he
another
did.
great player. He was the Penguin, third base, but he hit home runs. And of course, he had Steve Garvey, he had Ivan DeJesus, which I think was
Yes.
one of the best trades. And DeJesus coming to the Cubs, and then I think what was it?
Jesus and Buckner came together
You
for
got
Rick
it.
Monday.
That's right. And then Steve Sachs later on, Dusty Baker, who ended up being a manager. Rick
Yep.
Monday, no, not Rick Monday. I think there was quite another. And then I try to think of their catcher. Don Sutton was the pitcher, and
We had Mike Scioscia. We
Mike
had
Socha. That was
Joe
it.
Ferguson. Joe Ferguson and Steve Yeager were when I was a baby. When I was a kid, I was just learning the Dodgers. It was Fergie and Yeager.
Oh, you got that right. And the big story about Ivan DeJesus when I guess he was getting a little older and everything like that. They traded him to the Phillies, and I
Yeah,
guess got a couple of players, and Ryan Sandberg was in there, and Phil
Ryan
was like,
Sandberg.
got the best player, and son DeJesus ended up lasting a couple of seasons, couldn't play anymore. Ryan
No,
Sandberg became a Hall of Fame. We're like, ha ha, got the best of you guys. So,
yeah, it's nice to get the best of the Phillies once in a while.
mm, oh, definitely, yes, yes. I mean, gotta talk baseball sometime. That's how it came together. I think that's one of the big languages we have: baseball,
Absolutely.
sports, and breaking down together. How about some other things that can like break down a culture? It's like music, writing,
Yeah.
animals, food, and rattle off some things that can also help break down some of the
Well,
culture.
I think that I don't know how it is today. I think the world and media is different today than it was in those days. But there was several veins that were common to the American human, communal understanding, and I think that TV shows were part of it. Everybody watched. Saturday nights, everybody was watching Mary Tyler Moore and Bob Newhart and Carol Burnett show,
Mhm.
and everybody talked about it during the week. So I think TV had a lot to do with it. I think music has a lot to do with it. There used to be, maybe four or five radio stations, and for better or worse, they all played the same songs. It was top 40. So, but like in the book, in American Playground, when the main character is trying so hard to assimilate and to get in with the cool kids. He made every effort to speak their language, and he understood their language to be music or sports or all of those things. So he gets it wrong most of the time, which is funny, funny and sad, but the effort is there. The effort is there for him to like understand what the Super Bowl is, because he comes to school one day, it's Monday morning. This is all in the book. He comes to school on a Monday morning and he hears them all talking about, these dolphins who were slaughtered. And he didn't really know what that was, the dolphins getting slaughtered. What does that mean? You know? And so eventually throughout the day, he's trying to piece together these words that he's mishearing or mispronouncing. And he figures out that it was a football game and it's called the Super Bowl, and everybody was watching it the day before. And he starts pretending that he also watched it, even though he didn't, But that was his attempt to find common ground and to find himself on the inside. It's through sports, like you say, through television, through radio and music on radio. Those are the avenues. Those are the things that were available, I would say, in the 70s and maybe even the 80s, that were available to bring people together. To find some common ground. I don't think we have that as much today as we did in those days, but it's sad to me that we don't have that anymore, because honestly, part of the splintering of American society now is because everybody's got their own avenues. They're all going in different directions of their choice and of their choosing, but it's not shared. So there's no shared. Did you watch Mary Tyler Moore on Saturday night? It's hilarious, And characters on those shows, everybody understood. If you said he's being like Ted Baxter, we all know what Ted Baxter is, or he's like
Right,
Lee
yeah.
Grant.
I'm Ted Baxter, and here's the news.
We all know what that means. Now it's different. Now I don't think there are those common characters or common cultural touchstones that we can all stand on or communicate with, because we're just all different places.
I was going to ask you about that. If it was going to be any easier, the same, or difficult. The impression I'm getting is if the character were to go through this today, he would have more difficult time. And of course, trying to piece everything. But you're right. Everybody's becoming more separate, more divided, and everything else. At what point that he was able to get in somehow with some success, eventually succeed around the 70s. At what point do you think the divide really started to happen from the 70s, what he experienced with Mary Tyler Moore, Bugs Bunny, and all that, LA Dodgers, up until now, where it's just like, everything's like, a million scattered pieces. Even Stranger Things can, take on different things. At one point, do you think they start like, just start really splintering around like 80s, 90s, something like that?
Well, I mean, from personal experience, I think that the internet is a great tool, but it has shown its downside, and I would say in this century. I don't know. I mean, I think even in the 90s, we were still coming together around TV shows or rock bands, or things that were available to everybody. And also, I guess, it was the limits, because it was limited. TV was limited to 3 or 4 stations, and radio stations were limited. And so because of those limits, there was nowhere else to go. So we all had only these options to go to. And so they became the common options that we all kind of shared and discussed. But once the internet kind of found its footing, that allowed people, in a good way, to go a million different directions. The downside to that is that everybody's going in a million different directions, And there is no commonality, and there's nothing that everybody can share together because, except for, uh, the Super Bowl is still a game that um, captures the entire nation um, on some level. And maybe some of those, maybe the World Series still does. I
Yeah.
watch the World Series religiously, but I
Mhm.
don't know that the country is behind it the way it used to be.
Right. Well, I
Um,
remember back in the day too. Is of course you remember the Cleveland Indians and the Chicago Cubs. What was it 2016 or
yeah,
2017? Where it's like everybody came together. Who's going to end their drought? And sure
yes.
enough, thanks to a rain delay, 10 innings. About 1 in the morning later, it was decided. And I remember I had this caught on video, and I put on Facebook. And we're up till about 1 in the morning at a Buffalo Wild Wings in Bismarck. Group of Cleveland fans as pastors, sprinkling of Cub fans, and it was just like, there was a hit. And it's like, come on, don't fumble it, throw it, make sure you step on the bag and wait till he says out. And I went, oh, thank you. 108 years, I can go to heaven now. And the Indians are going to be still going through their drought. I mean, people are going to say it's the Guardians. I still call them the Cleveland Indians. I don't know why. It's like that was the one most
Habit.
memorable one. Yes, and of course, Subway Series, Mets and Yankees, and
Oh yeah,
right.
that was
And
a
I
good
think,
one.
and of course, the White Sox in Houston. And I think the Dodgers, I think it's around Fernando Valenzuela as prime there in the World Series one year, weren't they?
Yeah, yeah,
Fernando Ball, that's right.
yeah. Fernando Mania in the '81, they won the World Series against the Yankees.
That was
That
the
was a good one.
one. Yes,
Yeah,
yes. But of
little
course,
payback.
you're right. When it comes to Super Bowl, people don't mainly talk about the game. They'll talk about Travis Kelsey. They'll talk about Mahomes. They'll talk about
Right.
Jalen Hurts. They'll start talking about players not like coming together. Even talk about the halftime show. That's been the big thing. Commercials and all that's like, how can they come together? They're talking about several different things.
I totally agree, and I think that that's part of the pro and con. It's simultaneously a pro and it's a con. There's more opportunity for more people to watch for different reasons, but nobody collectively focuses on anything. And most people I know now who are real football fans or real baseball fans, they don't go to Super Bowl parties or anything like that because they want to watch the game. They don't
Right.
want to be
Or
distracted by.
right. Or just attend a party, although you're not watching the game and say, hey, I was there. It's like, hey, did you see Mahomes, throw the interception? No, I was at the game. That drives me nuts right there. Hey, did you see Mahomes, run and get like, sacked about 10 yards, lose the football? No, I was there for the game. And they're like, in another world talking. That's one thing that's driving me nuts right now. Is like some of us
Yeah,
focus on the game and some of there are just to socialize. And what's even
yeah.
worse, I,
Let's
I,
take
I,
pictures.
I'm seeing at games right now where there's a group of girls, spend $100 on a Phoenix Suns basketball game, and here they are just taking selfies, not focused on the game at all. And my dad
Yeah,
said to me one time, if you're going to go to the game, you better pay good money to really go see a game. Otherwise, don't even bother going.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think that I was writing this book over a long period of time, and I had a friend of mine from high school that I ran into, and he was working at one of those studios. I think it was NBC. I'm not really sure. This
Mm-hmm.
was this was in the 2010s. Okay, and so he said, "So what are you doing now?" And I said, "Well, I'm practicing law, and I'm also working on I'm still writing short fiction, and I'm working on a novel." And he said to me, "You're a dinosaur. People don't read anymore. People aren't interested in that stuff anymore." And it sort of hurt me a little bit, but I also thought, no, I'm not gonna prescribe to that. I think books are still being read. I know that right now collectively we're suffering from a short attention span problem where they're like, just get me what I need. You don't want to go through
Right.
the
Yeah.
process of writing.
Once upon a time, we lived happily ever after.
Yeah, get me to the last page. But I feel like it's healthy to read, and it's healthy to read long fiction, long form fiction, because you do have to practice your brain. You do have to exercise your brain beyond the immediate gratification
Mhm.
standard that we have going on right now. But I also think that hopefully, this is just a hope now, that it swings back, that this whole short attention span thing is maybe it's a cultural trend or phenomenon that's going to swing back to the more thoughtful era of people, taking their time and doing things what I consider the right way, which is maybe the slow way. But you know what? The tortoise does beat the hare. I love Bugs Bunny, but you
Definitely,
know,
that is very true. Very true. And of course, you also accomplishing something as well, too, being the founder and editor of the Thieving Magpie. We'll find out just 1 minute. You listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios, brought to you by our official sponsor, the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author, me and Molson's the Missing, the Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of King David, theories, quiz, opinions, and more. Amazon.com, keyword Sweet Psalmist Serena Wagner, and Sensei Swing Eric Dunn with All of Me. New music coming soon, ericdunmusic.com. We'll be back with the multi-talent author Michael Shokrian of American Playground after this timeout. We're back with author Michael Shokrian of American Playground here on the Mike Wagner Show. Fascinating conversation we had, fascinating conversation about the book as well. And of course, there's always land of opportunity. You even got your own publication called The Thieving Magpie. Tell us more about that.
The Thieving Magpie is a literary quarterly that has been churning out some pretty good fiction and poetry and art since 2017. It's something that I have been, it's been a passion project, I guess, for many years. Back in the late 80s, my best friend and I had tried to start up this literary magazine. We were going to call it the Working Papers. And we wanted to get poetry and fiction from people that have real jobs, people that have that actually work for a living. And we thought that would be an interesting thing to do. It didn't really get off the ground. This was in the late 80s. We didn't have any money, and print was expensive. So it didn't work out, but the desire was always there. So fast forward to, the tech age. Again, this is the upside and downside of technology. I figured out how to do the thing that I always wanted to do as a kid, which is have a pirate radio station. So I built out with the help of a tech guy, I built out this website and started putting the word out there to, fellow writers and fellow aspiring writers and artists to submit their work. And I didn't know what I was expecting, honestly. I think the reason I started this magazine was because I had been rejected so many times, my
Oh,
short
wow.
stories and poems. And, I'd been rejected over the course of 35, 40 years. I've been rejected hundreds and hundreds of times. And it hurt, every rejection hurts. And so I
Oh,
thought,
yeah.
maybe I'm going to start my own magazine and then put my short stories in there. That's kind of what I thought. But really what happened was that I got really good submissions from really talented people
Nice.
who, some of them were published in other places, but some of them were not. And they were just looking to break in, and they were not only were they talented, but when I sent them the email saying, I'm accepting you for this issue, they were thrilled. They were so genuinely excited about, having their work accepted somewhere. Just that concept of acceptance really
Nice.
buoys people and inspires them to keep doing their thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how the Thieving Magpie started. And again, I thought I had started it so that I can publish my own work, but I never really did publish my own work. I just published so much other work that was
Mm-hmm.
all really good, great fiction, great poetry, some
Mm-hmm.
really, really talented photographers and artists and essayists. And so just now, after 7 years, 7+ years, I've put together enough money to revamp and upgrade the entire project, the entire site, so that I can take it to that next level of figuring out how I can maybe turn this into something real. I mean, we're a nonprofit right now, and we take donations and all that, but um, I thought that when I finish a novel, when I finish this novel, I'm not going to wait around anymore. That was part of the thing. I had been rejected so many times that I just thought, there must be a code, just like just like the character in the book. There must be a code that I'm not getting, a code to getting into the inside that I'm not understanding. And I'm tired of trying to crack the code. So I just thought, you know what? The Thieving Magpie has been around for 7 years. I've printed, I've issued 29 issues of
Wow.
the
Okay.
magazine. Yeah, it's a quarterly. It's 7 years. Yeah. So I think I know a little something, very little, and I'll have the Thieving Magpie be the publisher. And so I did. So I just went through that process, and I'm still learning. I'm still, like we were discussing before, I'm still learning how to, promote it and how to, get it out there and get eyeballs and get, interested readers. But independent publishing, right now is as strong as it's ever been, and it's very robust. There's a lot of small press independent publishers that are just also, I think, tired of getting the big wall, of trying to break in, trying to crack the code of the agents with their query letters, or trying to get into the publishing houses that are getting smaller and smaller in number. There's 4 or 5 publishers now that publish 90% of everything. The rest of it is, you're either out of luck or you got to do it yourself. And
Right.
this is America. This is the land of opportunity, and this is the land of entrepreneurs. And so I decided, look, I'm a writer, I'm an artist. That's how I think of myself, but I'm also an adult and I'm not
Hmm.
stupid. So I can figure out, I can put on my entrepreneurial hat and try to crack this code myself.
That's
And
certainly
so
doing. You're doing a great job. There's a lot of self publications out there. Your rank up there and everything. In the meantime, where can we find American Playground and all your works at, Michael?
Well, first of all, the Thieving Magpie, it's thievingmagpie.org, has all the past issues of the magazine, and as the publisher, I want to promote it because I think it's a very formidable place to go and find really good art, really good reading, really good visuals. Um, the American Playground, the novel, is right now everywhere. It is. On any retailer site in print and in ebook. I'm almost done with the audiobook. I'm still talking with bookstores to have it on their shelves. We've gotten the agreement from one bookstore in Hollywood, an independent bookseller. They're ordering some, and I'm waiting to hear back from a couple more. So they should be on bookshelves soon, but right now they're available on in print and ebook through Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, bookshop.org, Kobo, basically anywhere that you can order a book online, you'll find American Playground. And again, if you're a tablet user, if you're Kindle or Nook or one of those, you can get the ebook. If you prefer print, like I do, you can order the print version. It'll be at your door, within a couple of days.
That sounds
Um,
great. We'll look forward as well too. Once again, with author Michael Shokrian here on the Mike Wagner Show with American Playground. What else can we expect in 2025 and beyond?
Once this book has found its place, I'm gonna be working on. I have 2 or 3 other projects. One novel, one novella, a bunch of short stories. So I have stuff that I continue to work on and have been working on for quite a while. And of course, I also have to pay my bills, so I still have to practice law when I have to,
Oh yeah.
and get to work. But yeah, I mean, the more I hope that the more success this book finds, the more I can find other writers and other artists who might want to work with the Thieving Magpie as a publisher, because that is definitely my goal, is to not just be publishing my work, but I've been publishing other people's work for many years now, and I think there's a place for other writers at the Thieving Magpie to come and be part of this new era of publishing.
Okay.
So I'd like to continue being a publisher, but I am a writer, and I am going to continue to do my writing.
Mhm. And you're doing a great job of it as well, Michael. And who you
Thank
consider
you.
biggest influence in your career?
Huh. Um, I don't know. Honestly, I have to really think about it. I would say Sherwood Anderson to me is still my favorite writer, and but also he was a guy who had a corporate job for many years, and one day he just snapped and walked off and said, I'm gonna write," and he became a legend by making that decision. And that's a hard decision for anybody, any adult,
Oh
any
yeah.
father. If you're a father, if you're a husband, if you have a mortgage, it's a very tough decision to choose for yourself a hard path, but the path that you feel you were destined to take, and to abandon, your copywriting job or your paint factory job or whatever job it is that you have that's paying your bills. Sometimes people just decide, hey, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I'm going to go and do the thing that I need to do.
Or you're
Um,
called or you're called upon too. You're right.
yeah, I mean, it is a calling. I think ask any nurse, ask any school teacher, ask any rabbi, those people don't take those positions because they think they're going to make money at it. They do it because it's a calling. A nurse, they do it because it's a calling. And I think writers are the same way. You do it because it's in your blood and you're going to do it. It's just got to figure out how.
Mhm. And I think that's a really good point as well, Michael. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
The best advice, I think, for anybody doing anything, by the way, not just writing, is you got to stay with it. If you believe in something, there are going to be 99 doubters and one person who believes in you, and usually that's just you. Okay, but even if you're the one out of the 100 that believes in you, you gotta do the thing that you need to do, because if you're gonna fail, you might as well fail at the thing that you wanted to fail at, not at your second plan B. You don't want to fail at plan B and think I let plan A get away. So my advice is anybody who has something that they believe in, that they think is their calling, go for it. Go for it, but also, be passionate, not just passionate, be disciplined about it and really commit to it. And that means that when it gets hard, you don't walk away. You have to be responsible, you got to pay your bills, but you also have to, stay with it. And it's hard. It's hard, much easier said than done, but it's doable.
Right, and certainly indeed as well too. We're here with author Michael Shokrian of American Playground here on the Mike Wagner Show. Michael, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Learned a lot. Looking forward to having you soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Glad to have you back. And what's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase or check out your book?
The Thieving Magpie is www.thievingmagpie.org. The author's site is MISHOKRIAN, mishokrian.com. That's where you'll find all the book-related information. And I guess Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Bookshop, etc., is where you would find the book.
Okay, we'll certainly check those out. Once again, Michael, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing. Looking forward to having you soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Glad to have you back. We wish you all the best. And Michael, you definitely have a great future ahead.
Thank you very much. It was a real fun doing this. Thank you.